We've done the US, the UK, and now the obvious progression is Canada, Germany. We'll get to Canada. Like me, you may have only heard of a few German states before, but that doesn't matter. It's about the stadiums. Here is the best stadium, or Stadion, in every German state, or Bundesland. Oh, and please don't take this list too seriously, it's just a bit of fun. Baden-Württemberg, the Black Forest state, not to be confused with a cake. I'm not going to go for the Black Forest Stadium, but Freiburg's new home instead. It's a stadium that certainly stands out with its exterior featuring those zigzag supports. But the interior looks much better in my opinion. It's absolutely stunning. The Freiburg colours of red, black and white certainly help with that. It's also quite compact and the seating fairly steep, making for an intimate atmosphere. Bavaria. It's the biggest state, and it gets a lot of hate, from the rest of Germany that is. Allianz Arena is home to Bayern Munich, a team that gets a lot of hate as well, but their stadium certainly shouldn't. Whether you like the look of its air cushion clad exterior or not is one thing, but the amenities on offer are world class. Not only is it a chameleon, but it has superb sightlines, blinds on the roof that can let in or block out light, and of course a large section of standing room as is the norm in Germany. Berlin. As a general rule, if a city has a donut named after it, it's a good city. Germany's biggest city doesn't have the most modern stadiums going round, but if you are going to have an old stadium, you'd want it to have an interesting history. Olympiastadion certainly fits the bill. A bit of a dark history actually, but I won't talk too much about that. After being neglected for so long, the stadium was renovated in the early 21st century, and is now quite an impressive sight. The old stone facade remains, meaning it looks practically as it did back in the day from the outside. From the inside, not so much. That's a good thing. Not only have certain luxuries been added, but how much better does a blue track look? And of course it matches the team's colours. Brandenburg. It's not where the Brandenburg Gate is. Stadion der Freundschaft, meaning Stadium of Friendship, is not quite like any we've seen so far. It's one that has been put together piece by piece over time, changing this and that. So not every stand is the same, which I quite like. It has a bit of character. There is a bit of a drawback with that some stands still have pillars holding up the roof, which isn't ideal, but it's better than no roof at all. And overall it's still a relatively modern and well-equipped venue. Bremen, the smallest state. Situated on the banks of the Weser River is Weserstadion, which has one of the better looking exteriors in the country in my opinion. But not only does it look great, it also produces a good portion of the stadium's energy requirements through the power of sunshine. If the interior looks a little older than the outside, that's because it is for the most part. It looked like this before it was renovated in the late 2000s, and as you can see, the stands behind the goals have been right anglified? Straightened? They're straight now. Hamburg. I would say it was the Big Mac of German states, but there's no reason to insult them. The Whopper State is the official title. Volksparkstadion is not the most exciting design going round, and it looks a little dated, but in a state that really is just a city, there isn't a ton of competition. It is however pretty damn big, and perhaps one of the largest second-tier football stadiums in Europe. Oh, I should mention that it's set to be renovated prior to the 2024 Euros, which is obviously a good thing. Hesse. It's what Hessian sacks are named after. Not because the material originated there, but their soldiers' uniforms were made from Hessian fabric back in the day. The poor lads were told it was bulletproof. Deutsche Bank Park was a trendsetter, kind of. What I'm referring to is this particular type of retractable roof that uses a certain fabric that runs along cables. It seems quite clever, but Like the rotary engine, it's been adopted by a few, but it just hasn't quite become mainstream, so not really a trendsetter then. Another benefit to the cable-supported roof is the center-hung video board, which not many football stadiums have. The interior has been recently updated with new seats. Lower Saxony. Ah, great. Thanks for the spoiler alert. Now everybody's gonna have to act surprised when the state of Saxony comes along. What a typical Lower Saxony thing to do. Volkswagen Arena was an easy choice for me. I love the elegant glass facade and that overhanging roof. The one downside is that Wolfsburg can't play any games of Rock Tag. You know, those who live in a glass house? To be honest, Rock Tag sounds like a bad idea regardless. I don't know why I brought it up. It has 2 tiers of seats that are quite steep, especially in the cheap seats. Unlike the one in Bremen, despite its appearance, it's not actually green, because Volkswagen. Mecklenburg-Western-Pomerania. I once knew someone from here. He was called Mr. Fluff. Ostseestadion. The stadium is named after the Baltic Sea, due to its proximity to it. So you can call me Ostsee Human, because I'm just a few hundred meters from the Baltic Sea as I speak. See? Look. I didn't say I had a view of it. The seaside location is also reflected in this nice piece of artwork over here. Other than that, it's quite a simple, single-tiered stadium. Those are some cool floodlights as well. I think they predate this current form of the stadium. North Rhine-Westphalia. It's the nicest smelling state because of its cologne. There's a lot of competition, but I don't think I can go past Signal Iduna Park, built initially for the 1974 World Cup. I usually don't pay too much attention to atmosphere when choosing which stadium to go for, simply because it's ever changing. But this place is known for its incredible atmosphere, in particular the terrace to the south, known as the Yellow Wall. It's the biggest and perhaps most iconic stand of its kind in the world, and on game day is more densely populated than it's densely populated. This is a proper football stadium for sure. Rhineland-Palatinate, home to what might be the world's most famous racetrack, the Nürburgring. But of course I can't count that. Fritz-Walter-Stadion has got to be one of the best third-tier stadiums in the world. Well, actually they were recently promoted, but still, it's one of the better second-tier football stadiums going round. The location overlooking the city is pretty majestic, like a modern-day castle. The cavernous interior doesn't let it down, and most importantly, there's always the opportunity for a group of clever fans to wear white shirts and coordinate to create a swear word. What more could you possibly want? Saarland. If you exclude the city-states, this is the actual smallest state. Ludwigparkstadion just recently finished being completely renovated, transforming it from a rather dull multi-purpose stadium with a track around the field to a vibrant football-specific stadium, with only the main stand remaining from the original design. As I said, it's looking quite vibrant nowadays, except for the bare concrete terracing. There's got to be a way to make that look better. But I guess it matters very little on match day. Saxony. It's home to what might be the coolest looking bridge in the world. Red Bull Arena. The design might not be unique, but there is one aspect that is. And that's the fact that it's being plonked onto the Zentralstadion that occupied the site. Very symbolic. A little over a decade since the Berlin Wall came down, a modern football-specific stadium, home to a team that just got bought out by an energy drink company and rebranded, plastered with corporate logos, had been plonked onto a stadium that was built during communist rule of East Germany. You've gotta love it. The newly installed seats are looking great actually. Saxony-Anhalt. When Saxony is not enough. MDCC Arena. You could say this is just a stripped back, slightly less interesting version of Ostseestadion, and yeah, it kinda is. It was built around the same time that Ostseestadion was rebuilt, and the budget was fairly slim, so it's not exactly state of the art. The exterior is pretty bare bones, there are some pillars holding up the roof, but they don't obstruct too many people's view, and overall it's a rather nice stadium. I was sounding like I didn't like it, but it's decent. Schleswig-Holstein, the state that keeps getting arrested, because it's always touching Denmark's bottom. Holsteinstadion. It's a similar story to Ludwigsparkstadion. The rebuild was completed just a few years back, and it's pretty much a brand new stadium now. It's just the unconventional seating layout here that lets you know that it's not completely brand new. But I don't mind that, it's looking great. It's like Pittodrie Stadium without the rust. Thuringia. That sounds Sri Lankan. Steigerwaldstadion. That certainly doesn't. You may have noticed something odd about the stadium, that being the unusual angular shape. The stadium was actually mostly demolished a little under a decade ago. They kept the running track, I guess they hold athletics here, but rather than a smooth curving stand around it, like it was, they've made it angular for some reason. And so the main stand, which predates the rebuild, looks a little bit out of place. Regardless, it's still a good looking stadium. And there you have it, that was the best stadium in every German state. Did I miss any obvious choices? Probably. If so, let me know in the comments. Danke for watching, have a good one.